Thank you. Thank you. After that introduction, I think I probably should say nothing. About as glowing as it possibly could be. Thank you, Dave, and thank you for all that you do. I missed the Shad Festival this year again. He always tries to get me to the Shad Festival, but one day I'll have to come. I have been to Atlanta quite a few times, though. And thank you, Madam Chairwoman, if I could say that. You do a great job. I know how tough it is in Hunterdon County, but because I'm from Monmouth County, and we have a tough job as well, electing Democrats. But I do think, and I guess that's going to be my theme here in my short statement, that I do think things are definitely looking a lot better for Democrats, and particularly for those of us who are in counties where we have to struggle and we have to work hard to elect Democrats. And I'll tell you why I believe that. Since the Republicans, you know, it's interesting, I was listening to the Sunday talk shows this morning, and I think it was Mitch McConnell actually said that the Republicans control the Congress, forgetting that, you know, that the Democrats are still in the majority in the Senate. But at some level, I think that that's actually good, because if he believes that, and a lot of people believe that, it actually is good, because the Republicans in the House, since they took over, are very much overreaching, and if people associate that overreaching, you know, with the Republicans for the Congress in general, it probably helps us. And that's what I think is really going on. That's why I think that things are looking better for Democrats, because the bottom line is that the Republican leadership in both the House and the Senate is very much out of touch. They do not listen to the people. I was telling the people at my table that, again, you know, not to use the talk shows as the end of everything, but I was listening to the Republicans this morning from about 9 o'clock until 11 o'clock when I got in the car to come here. You know, it was Boehner and McConnell and Ryan and who else, you know, a few others. And not once did they mention jobs. They were talking about the debt, they were talking about foreign policy, they were talking about who was going to run for president, but no mention of jobs. And they've been in charge now in the House for, you know, since January, and they haven't brought a single bill to the floor of the House of Representatives that even remotely they could say would create a job. And yet when I'm out on the, you know, in my district, that's all people talk about. So it's like this huge disconnect, and it's because they're not listening. We had our state convention, Lois was there, and some of you were there, and Friday night we had the main dinner, and John Wisniewski, who's our state chairman, was talking about how important it is to listen. And I thought to myself, that's the problem. They don't listen. They don't listen to the public. And I think part of the reason is because they're so married, if you will, to the special interests, to the big oil companies, the big banks, and Wall Street, and the big insurance companies, that you know, they just don't have the ability anymore to really understand what's going on out there. And what I think is happening, and the reason I think that we're going to do well this November and beyond, is because people have finally started to understand whose side the parties are on. They understand that the Democrats are with the middle class and with the average person. They understand that the Republicans are with the special interests. And again, you know, I talk about big oil, big insurance companies, and the big banks. And I don't see this changing. I really don't see it changing. And part of it also is because the Republicans are very much driven by the Tea Party. You know, I ran against the poster person for the Tea Party in New Jersey. Fortunately, she lost. But there were about 75, 80 Tea Party types that were elected last November that created the Republican majority. And what they do is they constantly push the Republican leadership further and further to the right. And we benefit from that. I don't want to just benefit from their mistakes, but, you know, Lois, I'll take whatever I can get. If that works, that's fine. I think that what we have to do, though, we were having a little discussion at the table again, we as Democrats, though, and the President in particular, do have to be, you know, make sure, though, that we are doing the things that are important to the average person, and that our policies reflect the concerns and the progressive concerns of our base voters too. Because, you know, there are a lot of base voters that will say to me, well, you know, First of all, they want jobs to be created, and it's hard for us to create jobs or to improve the economy because we're not in charge anymore. If the president wants to do a stimulus package, or the president wants to invest in education, or invest in transportation infrastructure, or invest in R&D, all the things that he says he'd like to do, we can articulate that position, but because we don't control the House anymore, it's actually very difficult to do those things in an effective way to create jobs. So I think that what we really have to do is continue to say, look, if we were in charge and we were able to do, this is what we would like to do, and make sure that, that the public knows that we're trying to create jobs, that we are on the side of the middle class and the average person, and that we are focusing on those economic and bread and butter issues to create growth. And I do worry a little bit that, because the economy's not good and it isn't getting better much quicker, and maybe can't because of the Republican policies, that it's hard for us to get that point across. But we have to keep talking about it. So just to give you a few examples, the biggest issue that's hurting the Republicans now is Medicare. They ran against us last November and said that we wanted to cut Medicare. In fact, the only cuts that we had in Medicare were to the providers, the doctors and the hospitals and those that were providing care, not the benefits to the actual senior citizens. Well, now they have this policy under the Ryan budget that they want to end Medicare as we know it and phase it out and just give people a voucher. So we have to say, look, we have an alternative that would save Medicare, but really what we need to do is create growth, because if you create growth and you create jobs, then you pay back into the Medicare trust fund, you pay back into the Treasury. The biggest way to reduce the deficit and to get us out of the problem with Medicare and these other trust funds is to create jobs and have growth, because, if you remember under President Clinton, as the surplus developed and the debt started to be paid down, all these problems basically were disappearing. It's only when the economy went bust because of Republican policies, tax policies, the war, whatever, that that we started to have a problem with Medicare and Medicaid and the rest of these things. But I don't want to keep talking. I just want you to know that I really feel very good about what's going on. But it is important to do the grassroots. And I know that everything matters this November and every November in terms of who gets out to vote. I looked at statistics from my last election, which I didn't do as well as I usually do because it was a bad year. And it wasn't because people who traditionally vote for me didn't, it's because they didn't voted for the Republican, it's because they didn't come out and vote. And so that's what we have to guard against. We've got to fire up our base, we've got to make sure that people understand where we stand, that they're on their side, and we've got to get them out to vote. And I know that's not an easy thing to do, but I see DFA, and I see some of the other groups here that traditionally, I see Labor with Eric. I mean, we have to make sure that we get all those groups and traditional groups that help Democrats and have a progressive agenda out there on Election Day this year. I know that I feel very good about the state legislative elections. The map, the commission adopted the Democratic map. You actually benefited from it, and you actually have some incumbent Democrats now in certain parts of Hunterdon County. Everybody's waving. And, no, it's true. But I think that there's actually an opportunity in this November to pick up seats in the legislature, in some of the districts. And also, in some of the counties where we didn't do as well last year, that we can actually pick up freeholder seats in some of the other mayoral and council seats. So I'll just leave you with that. I feel very good about what's going on. We all should be proud of being the Democrats, because we are the alternative that cares about the people and the concerns of the people, and we just have to get that message out and get people out on Election Day. So thank you again. Thank you for coming.